here's the deal. Pope Francis was speaking with a group of young people at a rally of thousands at the end of the first day of his trip to the Italian city of Turin. Francis started by attacking the right to keep and bear arms, as well as accusing the Allies during World War II of being complicit in the killing of Jews, Christians, and homosexuals. Francis issued his toughest condemnations to date of the weapons industry, saying, quote, "If you trust only men, you have lost." He then told the young people in a long, rambling talk about war, trust, and politics. After putting aside his prepared address, he said, quote, "It makes me think of people, managers, businessmen, who called themselves Christian, and they manufacture weapons. That leads to a bit of a distrust, doesn't it?" There was some applause at that point. He also criticized those who invest in weapons industries, gun owners primarily, saying duplicity is the currency of today. They say one thing and do another. Translation, you're a hypocrite. Francis also built on comments he's made in the past about events during the First and Second World Wars. He spoke of the, quote, tragedy of the Shahal, using the Hebrew term for the Holocaust. Quote, "The great powers had the pictures of the railway lines that brought the trains to the concentration camps like Auschwitz to kill Jews, Christians, homosexuals, everybody. Why didn't they bomb the railway lines? It is surely an upside-down world when the representative of God on earth disparages the right to self-defense and accuses the greatest generation of being complicit in Hitler's genocide of the destruction of Europe and Russia." Now let's clean this up a little bit. Let's talk about what's really being said. Pope Francis just made a moral judgment on any and everyone who has ever owned a firearm of any kind. He just said that if you claim to be a Christian and you support a gun manufacturer, you're a hypocrite. He said if you are a gun manufacturer, you can't possibly be a Christian. He said that our government, our troops, our military, along with the British and the French, of course, France wasn't in much of a position to do much very far into World War II. Not officially, anyway. But he accused the Allies in total of being complicit. Of practically helping pull the trigger to the gas chambers. The trigger, switch, whatever they used. That it is equally our fault that we didn't use weapons like bombs to stop them from being able to run trains. Okay, so is there any level of hypocrisy in that statement? it's partially our fault because we didn't use enough weapons, but we can't be Christian if we're using any weapons? Because there were a couple of occasions during this speech that he specifically says firearms. But then there are a couple of occasions where he just says weapons in general. This is supposed to be the Pope. Now, granted, we've gotten a lot of mixed messages from Pope Francis in the past as far as what his political leanings are. He has been very much a leftist in ideology for the most part. He's not only been supportive of the ideas of climate change, but also has been active in trying to promote the idea of man-caused climate change, better known as global warming, although they moved away from the term because there hasn't been any warming in nearly a decade. What little bit of warming we did have previous to that was undone, and in 1 year's time, heaven forbid there should be natural cycles, a conference being held at the Vatican actively excluded a scientist who was ready to present how solar cycles was a bigger issue on climate change than anything that man was doing. A real scientist studying in the field with the crazy idea that big shining ball of nuclear fusion that we see in the sky during the daylight hours, that thing up there might have something to do with warming the planet. And although they didn't technically ban the scientists, they did in fact say, "Oh, sorry, we don't have the money to bring you here. We've already spent too much money to bring these other scientists here." And then scientist dude is like, "Hey, yeah, that's all right. I'll pay to come myself." And then they're all like, "Oh, shucks, darn it. You know what? We're out of chairs. We don't have any more chairs anywhere in the Vatican. We've looked, there aren't any chairs. All the other chairs are taken." Perhaps if we hadn't told everybody that if you support gun manufacturers, you're not Christian, we might have been able to have a guard, stand guard, and protect the rest of the chairs. Those crazy global warming, climate change deniers, the science deniers, they came and stole your chair. Sorry. Okay, so this is the Pope. This Pope is not somebody who's keeping his public statements to the realm of the religious. Which is what he's supposed to do, isn't it? Now, I'm not Catholic, so it's really no skin off my nose what the Pope says or does. But I do find it very irritating that he is supposed to be a representative of God on earth. He's supposed to be the voice of the largest Christian denomination that exists on the planet. He's supposed to be a voice of reason and faith and comfort in the world during times of trouble. And rather than talk about unity, much the way Obama failed to talk about unity, given the recent tragedies, he chose to pick up the rhetoric of division and exclusion. Now, maybe it's just me, or maybe, just maybe, that might actually be more hypocritical than a Christian that owns a gun. You're supposed to be bringing the message of Christ. Joy and love and peace. Not division. Not judgment. But instead you choose to say, oh, and by the way, guess what? If you've ever had a gun, you're going to hell. Okay, well, he didn't say that, but it's really not that far off. You can't be a gun owner and be a Christian and not be hypocritical. You can't be a gun manufacturer and be a Christian at all. Really? Firearms are tools, and each one is built for a specific purpose. Each tool has a specific use. They have a reason. And most of them have very little to do with doing harm to other people. Some, unfortunately, are designed specifically for that. Weapons of war. The majority of firearms that are manufactured around the world, however, have mundane purposes like shooting snakes or shooting rats. And, of course, then for hunting, you run into your rifles there where you're hunting squirrels or deers or whatever the animal population is in your little corner of the world that makes for sport hunting, or, heaven forbid, if you're still living in a part of the world where you have to catch and kill what you're going to eat. You know, here in the United States, that concept has become almost a forgotten ideology. But there are still lots of places around the world that you're growing what you're going to eat and you're killing what you're going to eat, and if you don't, you're not going to eat. That is a reality for a lot of people. So I'm sorry, I definitely believe that you can still be a Christian and own a rifle if you're providing food for your family, and there's no hypocrisy involved there. So either I'm wrong or the Pope's wrong. Or maybe we're both wrong. There is that third option. There could be something completely different out there that's the actual right answer. But on this particular issue, it seems pretty clear that it is either one or the other. And I tend to think that the Pope might be wrong on this one. The question is, what do you think? Again, I want to send comments if you're catching this on the podcast. Please go to tapintothetruth.com, send me a message from down near the bottom of the homepage, or send me an email directly at ttap, that's T-T-A-P-P, at tapintothetruth.com. That's TAPPINTOThetruth.com. I gotta do something to make that a little catchier so I can just say it. But anyway, reasonable, well thought out comments will make future broadcasts. I'll be happy to include them both here and at BTR. This is something that we're going to have to talk about again this Sunday. You know, this is undoubtedly going to be one of the big stories of the week. Unless aliens show up at the White House lawn and then all bets are off. But short of that happening, this is a big deal. Whether people want it to be or not, this is a big deal. The Pope just called out mostly the United States. The Pope just called out mostly the people of this country and joining in the chorus with the worldwide liberal weenies who think that it's a good idea to take guns away from everybody.